Well, it comes with the long distance.
Okay.
Here.
All right, welcome, hear you. We're gonna go ahead and start this March session of the Economic Development Commission here at 6:01 PM. Call this meeting to order, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right.
I've been just having this big conversation.
We'll do a quick roll call before we get into public
How
comment.
quick, I can make it really quick.
We'll do a moderate roll call.
Okay, Chair Lawson,
Present?
Lisa. Okay, I'll come back to her. Jacqueline Hunt,
Present.
Mike Aciardi, Amy Gibson Grove,
Present.
David M. Monor.
Present.
I know Chris Barron is excused, and I see Lisa up on the screen. Hello, Lisa.
Present.
And your ex officio tonight is Counselor James Page.
President.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Counselor Phage. Appreciate it. We'll be efficient tonight, as always. All right, public comment. If anyone would like to make comment this evening, no one is in the room.
I did not receive anything prior to the meeting.
We did not receive anything online.
Pretty good show.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and keep moving forward and check the box on public comment this evening, March the 5th. We'll look at last meeting minutes, so the session of February 5th of 2025. This was our first session of the year. We did not have an official meeting in January due to the holiday and New Year. So some of the items we covered, we nominated and elected a chair and vice chair for 2025, with myself being elected chair and Chris Barron being elected vice chair. We discussed some of the 2025 business survey, which will continue that discussion and hopefully wrap that up here this evening and get that sent out, get some data back. We talked about the project advisory committee, the relook committee for the UGB expansion. And as we had our fourth and final RAC meeting shortly after our February EDC meeting. And then we did a quick look ahead and planning session in terms of what we want to accomplish in the upcoming year. So we talked quarterly updates to city council, how we were going to plan those updates. We'll talk about that this evening. We talked about revisiting our subcommittees and SMART goals, which we will do so again this evening as well. We'll eventually get to inviting Therese, the new communications marketing focal for the city. Probably later in the year, April or May meeting, while we work through a couple things. And then we also covered the potential business incentives, creating a one-pager for prospective businesses, and the URA as well, with the sunsetting date in 2027, and some potential projects to work on with the URA. That was about it, aside from some other kind of project updates and city updates from Bill. Just on some kind of current events to keep up with within the city. Any questions, items to revisit from February's meeting minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I second.
Excellent. All those in favor of approving February's meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, we have unanimous approval of February 2025 meeting minutes for the EDC. So that means we can keep rolling into unfinished business for this evening. The 2025 business survey. We're in the red zone. We're at the goal line, trying to get this thing in the end zone. We have been working with the Chamber of Commerce to use their platform and get the survey issued. We met with Cindy Hurst last month to discuss some of the specific details and the intricacies of the survey. I met with Cindy offline a couple weeks ago and buttoned up everything. We created a kind of blanket statement sort of that we can send out via email. So I was going to share that with the team this evening. So let me pull that up and I'll share it on Zoom so that everyone can get a good look at it. All right, so somewhat difficult to see on the screen here, so I'll.
Oh, I got it.
Pretty middle.
So this is the look of what will be sent out to each of the current business owners as they've listed in their email communication preference. You already received it. Okay, well, it has a insert survey list here, statement. I thought it was still in draft. That's okay. We'll make it work.
I filled it out.
What?
I filled it out.
Oh, okay, you found it. Anyways, this was kind of the verbiage, that will be sent out, or already has been sent out to, the business owners. So the North Plains EDC is conducting an economic climate survey. We'd love to hear from you. Your insights will help us better understand the opportunities and challenges facing local businesses and guide future initiatives to support economic growth in our community. The survey takes approximately 10 minutes to complete and your responses will remain confidential. Results will only be reported in an aggregate form. So we'll look at results, not specific line item by line item, aside from the qualitative statements they give us. And those will be confidential and anonymous. Insert survey link here. We sincerely appreciate your time and input. If you have any questions, I just listed my email and figured I'd spare the group any communication there, but I'll definitely pass along anything I receive from any business owners. Any questions?
Eric, you said this went out.
So was that Lisa?
This version went out that has the insert survey link here. That's the one the business owners see.
Yeah,
Okay,
apparently.
all right.
Unless Cindy sent it to
Just me,
just the EDC members.
yeah. I filled it out.
Did anyone else receive it though?
Yeah, I did receive it. Yes, we know some.
Okay. I will clarify with Cindy that it
If it went out.
actually went out to the distro. I don't think it did. The reason I say that is she and I were gonna scrub the contact list and make sure it went out to the appropriate
Got it,
venues.
okay, so it might have just been me, I just.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Filled it out.
Okay. But yeah, definitely, if it hasn't gone out yet, we'll make sure that's rectified before sending it. I'll click on the link here, see if we can, pull it up even. Oh, we have to share a different screen. Currently loading. We'll jump back to it. Oh, there we go. All right, so,
This really takes 10 minutes to do it. Is you gonna go through this for now or?
no, I was just gonna pull it up and just get a view. We've vetted the questions a few meetings here in this forum, so. I don't wanna. Take up too much time going through each and every one, but, this is what it looks like. We had our statements here, our rating scale, and then the, kind of free text field.
So the
For,
way I would read this is anything 4, whatever, 4.0, 4.1, everything else in that is positive. Everything below 4.0, 3.9, for example, would be not positive.
yeah, we can use 3 as kind of our baseline in terms of.
You mean neither agree or disagree, and we don't say anything, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's negative. Right?
I view it as neither.
Okay.
And so we'll kind of obviously crunch the data once we get it. Just like I said, in an aggregate level, so that we can take a look at some trends, like if there's one specific question, if it's regarding the challenges statement. That's where we can dive in and identify some low hanging fruit, like, okay, this clearly was rated. They disagree that they have everything they need to overcome challenges, for example. We can look into those questions, some of the specific statements that they include in the survey if they do. And kind of target those areas going forward. And then we have some demographic questions as well. That's about it. Any questions? Pretty quick.
Pretty slick.
How long would you say it took you to fill it out?
Didn't even take 10 minutes.
Okay. That was
Make the question.
my hope. So,
I mean, unless someone wants to really dig in and write paragraphs.
Yeah.
Under the comment section.
yeah. Okay,
And so is it AR for the members of the committee to complete so that you have some
so,
data to,
Bubble data.
yeah, before you send it out.
yeah, if you guys have time to complete it, I think that would be good, and then I can touch base with Cindy on finalizing that email, and then taking a look at the back end, how the data is actually received. I haven't seen that through their website. My thought is we would essentially just extract an Excel version of whatever data we get. Go from there, but that's our thought for right now. Anything else? Good question, David, though. I think that'd be helpful, but we can just get a few responses in there and see how it's coming across on their website. Okay. We'll keep moving along then. So that's all I wanted to discuss in terms of survey. Is there anything else from the group that we want to touch on as we move forward? And I'm thinking we get it sent out. We said this last month, but get it sent out and hopefully review some like preliminary data next month. And then we can kind of do a few things if we're not seeing the response rate we would like. We can send some reminders or discuss, how we want to go about that. Because Chris isn't here.
I will observe one little survey experience because I'm just clicking on it.
Yeah.
It is a little hard to pick the question out from the answers, and what's bolded is the repeated instruction.
Okay.
If you're gonna talk to us anyways,
Yeah.
if it's not live, like if it's live, I wouldn't lose any sleep, but
Yeah. Okay, so the. Good, good enough, good user feedback. Okay. Thanks. Anything else from the group? If not, we'll roll into the subgroup updates or subcommittees. Hopefully everyone was able to touch base before the meeting. If not, How long we can talk through it.
I had an email response,
Okay,
but then a squirrel ran in front of me and then I
and that was it. yeah.
didn't press send and then.
No,
I
it's
needed to
okay.
be here, So.
I wait too, I need to not do this like the day of, because I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So we'll start with, the Glencoe Opportunity Area subgroup.
Yeah, so for us on our list, the second goal, I feel like now we can kind of move into the second goal, since the first one is what we just looked at. So the second one, we've got develop targeted marketing materials showcasing North Plains business advantages. Which is sort of, I guess, the exciting one for me, being that I might go to help this, so.
Yeah.
Design stuff, so I guess now we've sort of figured out that there's not really anything pre-existing, which I guess is good, because it gives us a clean slate to start from. So I guess that now would be, you know, what specific materials are we looking for, what's our budget, I guess would be the big item. And actually, since we started this, I started a new job at a printing place, so we may be able to have some, an advantage there when we go to actually make these materials. And then I can obviously help with the graphic design, so. Yeah, I guess now it's just, you know, what do we want, what's our budget, and then, start the creation and production process.
Perfect. And I see Therese has joined online. Therese, no worries if you are just listening in, but we'll probably set up some time with you to join our meeting either in April or May or what have you, and hopefully we can maybe even have a bit of a working session on how we can help support some of the marketing and communication pieces.
I guess,
Just saying hi.
Thanks for joining.
So
Yeah.
Part of the response, that was gonna be is, I think, for me, looking at that survey, it's great, answer questions, all of that. But I know that I would have, as a business owner, I would like someone to be like, hey, what do you want? Instead of just something in an email that's very black and white. So I think, you know, I was thinking a little boots on the ground for, you know, some local places around here, just to actually still talk to them in a very casual manner. And I thought of that because I actually talk to everybody in our row, all the owners,
Right,
all the time,
yeah,
and it would be so easy for us to just talk about that, to say, hey, what do you think versus this is great. But to have that face-to-face contact, to say, you know, what would you want for marketing material? What would that look like for you?
yeah,
To get that feedback, to then be able to say, well, this kind of marketing material is what we're hearing. I'm not saying go to every single one, or we want to get it and spread out. And I know that was the point in this survey kind of too, but I know that casual conversation like that can lead to more in-depth feeling.
Yeah.
What would work.
and I know the plan, I believe still is to partner with the chamber to kind of do just what you're saying, like go boots on the ground and actually go visit some of the business owners, especially if we have some initial feedback from the survey that we want to go address or get more information on. That was the goal to partner with the chamber on that, but I don't see any issues with us doing that as a EDC as well. If it's something that we want to do kind of more informally and just kind of go kind of start and foster those relationships. Some of those business owners.
And then plan the marketing material based on that.
I guess my question would be, you know, as far as if we're doing, you know, brochures and flyers and things like that, you know, where would they be distributed? Would it be, like Kim has that little thing of all the like those sea lion caves and all, I mean, would it be somewhere that's like a specific, hey, here's something you can grab, or is it something we send to people? I guess I'd like to know, like, what would be the use of whatever marketing materials, printed materials that we would produce?
I know we talked about, like last month, a one pager that can be given to, potential businesses that might be interested in North Plains as their potential future home. And so in that case, we would just have like an inventory of them at City Hall, that can be handed out as, people come in interested. Kind of the central areas like we were talking about, Kim's Market. And I know the agendas usually get posted in a few different locations, correct, like City Hall.
The post office in Kim's.
So like we could even post them around those locations as well.
Would there be a potential to put some sort of a printed piece in like the water bill, or is that already stuffed, that newsletter and all that, or is that?
An individual, like a separate piece,
Yeah, just like a separate little mailer or maybe part of that. flyer?
we could probably make it a page in the newsletter, but to add a whole page in the water bill is extremely expensive. I think, I mean, we can look into it, but we add little like 2-line sentences on the water bill, but to add a whole nother page.
About specifically about I guess it would, I mean, if to add anything into the water bill in terms of the newsletter or whatever, it costs money. But it could potentially be funded depending on what we call it or how we wanted to try to fund it, you know what I mean? So it would just kind of boil down to what's the specific message and then finding the path to what fund or department or account number, would cover it. I mean, we have a community development department, we have economic development, urban renewal. It's just a matter of being precise about it.
Yeah. And I imagine the overall goal would just be educating people maybe on new businesses that people don't know about or highlight existing businesses. And would that sort of be the goal of just educating people in North Plains about what is available?
As a special one-time thing, or would this be ongoing?
Well,
Because what I can say, now, we have Therese here, so maybe this is something that she would like to chime in about. So, one thing about Therese's background is, and she can talk about it, but for a while, she was, a key communications person for the, Port of Vancouver, right, Therese?
Yep, the Port of Vancouver, yes.
So she has plenty of experience communicating positive or popular and not so popular tech dev business development things, depending on, circumstances or climate. But maybe not necessarily a one-time thing, but I think we have opportunity, for instance, Therese, chime in. What we don't have currently in the monthly newsletter is the Economic Development Commission corner or maybe
some
there's
kind of content that can, and it doesn't have to be every single month either. I mean, it could be, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Bill.
This was the perfect opportunity, Therese, go for it.
It could be every other month. I mean, sometimes in the newsletter, it is hard to find content. So far I've been doing the newsletter for about 4 or 5 months, and every month the library always has a lot of stuff. And, there's been quite a bit of a few things about the UGB. And then of course the new building, but then I have a little bit of a hard time sometimes finding content to write about. But I don't think that, every month you have to have something. I think that when you have things coming up, or certainly, and I had this idea that I talked to Bill about, we should be highlighting, a business of the month or something like that, a feature with a particular business in North Plains, and maybe interview the owner and what are the good things, the best parts about, having your business in North Plains. What are the benefits to it? There's a lot of things that could happen. I mean, we could be bumping up, and this is one of the goals I had for this year, is to bump up outreach on LinkedIn and try to get in on some of the different LinkedIn groups in economic development for cities. And because there are specialized groups on LinkedIn, and that might be, or business groups. But also, I had a question I wrote down. Are you guys engaged with Business Oregon at all? Because they have events and things all the time for economic development activities statewide. And I think it would be interesting, to start exploring, the participation in those. My brain was just, I was doing a dump here in my little notebook. What kind, if you want to do economic development, you have to get real clear, I think, about who and what kind of businesses you want to be in North Plains, who you want to attract. I mean, I don't think you want to attract like, I don't know, a cigarette company, something like that, but you want to attract really good companies that do good things. And also, there should be, and I need to look on your website. I haven't explored it too deeply, but what are the true benefits of doing business in North Plains and really pumping those up and putting that out there, whether it's in the newsletter through a column about who featuring one or two of the different businesses in town, like what made them decide to start their business in town. But those kinds of tactics and strategies to promote economic development for North Plains. And I haven't really talked a lot with Bill about how it's connected to the UGB. And I don't know if you want to do that, but there may be some tie-in, or you may want to avoid it altogether and just go for it and just try to get new businesses to locate their organization in North Plains.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great ideas. We're not involved currently with
Business Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah.
So we haven't attended any events or been in communication at all with that group. I think starting point, we would probably work on, what are the attraction points for the city, outside of any type of UGB expansion at the outset. And then once that kind of gets solidified or determined, we would definitely want to, focus on that as a group as well.
Yeah, I think the starting point is to have a real good discussion about what types of businesses you want to target first. I mean, why not go for low-hanging fruit and also the most positive, types of organizations and businesses that you can find. And what is in North Plains for them? I mean, I'm not sure how much office space you guys offer in North Plains, but those are the kinds of things that are going to sell North Plains, having that we have this much square footage of office space to offer you, or we have this much land for you to put a workshop in, or something to that effect. But I am not certain about what all those benefits are at this point, and that needs to be determined first, and then the target audience, the target businesses that you want to go after. Because I can certainly on LinkedIn put posts and do, really cool stuff on LinkedIn, because we did a lot of that, the Port of Vancouver, targeting specific industries that they wanted to attract. And there are little groups within LinkedIn that are just made for every kind of thing you could imagine. So.
Do you have much experience just through the communication and kind of marketing piece with any type of like incentive programs or things that you've seen other cities do to try to attract business?
What's interesting is I don't know about cities, but I do know, for instance, at the Port of Vancouver, I know they had incentives in their business deals, but it's a different type of business deal. If you think about it, you're trying to get people to, import and export their goods through the Port of Vancouver. And that is a major contract. It's not the same as, hey, come open your business in our city. But there definitely were incentives, like less steerage fees and less dockage fees, and you get this many hours of the longshoremen to unload your stuff, or different deals that they would do. But that was specific to the import-export business. There were a lot of businesses also, though, that had offices that had nothing to do with import-export. It's almost like a business park up there. There's parts of the port that are. And so there was a lot of, tenants that would get good deals in terms of their rental, their leases and whatnot on the port. So I know they did do deals, and those were the incentives. I'm not sure what kind of incentives there are for enticing cities other than tax breaks. And I think that I lived in Springfield, Oregon I lived in Springfield when I was a kid, but I also lived there a few years ago and when I was working for Lane Transit District. And you guys ever remember Symantec? That was a computer company program, something. I don't know what it was exactly, but they got such a sweet deal from the city of Springfield. And then as soon as the deal was up, literally the day after their 10-year contract, they left. So the city of Springfield really did put in a lot of effort. And it was, I mean, they had the most beautiful buildings and they had an outdoor volleyball court. And I think they had at this building, and it was just kind of like Columbia Sportswear.
Yeah.
But then they left, and and Springfield's had they do have occupancy in that building now, but it was a long road to hoe, and it's been very hard on the city, and Springfield was really criticized for giving away the farm to them. So it's just something you have to keep in mind.
Yeah. Sounds somewhat similar. Potentially.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Therese. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth discussing more, and I think that's one of the, if not the main topic, maybe where we can have a working session and really have some goals of what we want to solidify, and then from there, we can, revisit some of the marketing materials, feedback from business owners, things like that.
Well, really, we don't have to try to shotgun a bunch of different things. We could pick one printed piece, get our message there, and then, approach some other digital options like LinkedIn or Line and Roll. I think there's another neighborhood sort of one. So we don't have to go nuts. We can just start out small and then ramp up as we go, as we see the effect of those things. I did have one question. So who would approve whatever marketing messages we have? Does that have to go through city council, through the mayor, or how does that work?
It's an administration thing. It would be me. The city doesn't have a formal economic development strategy. We don't have anything that's a council adopted guiding document other than the economic opportunities analysis that we have that identifies our targeted industries and, what kind of businesses we want here and that sort of thing. But as far as any sort of adopted economic development messaging that we have to go by or any of that, it doesn't exist. So it kind of boils down to me interpreting, or just kind of like guiding. I think what I would do is just work with you all on pretty standard stuff. If it's the Glencoe Opportunity Area that you want to try to market or trying to, recruit a grocery or whatever you want to do. From my past life in consulting, I would work with you on information that grocery stores and retailers are looking for. How many households are within a certain radius or drive time? What's their demographics? You're on the way to the coast. You're a growing area. You're a beautiful valley, all that stuff. If you're marketing in businesses and tax incentives, you're marketing the city as an economic development entity rather than a site or a business location. And so we just go through what incentives we do have, who our utility providers are and how cheap they are, all that stuff. So it's standard stuff. There isn't anything provocative or controversial to be said. It would just be kind of me working with you on just checking the boxes on the appropriate content and then making it look really good.
I like what you said.
Yeah. Maybe that.
Well, that sounds like the next step is doing a little work group, Therese and.
Yeah, is that something we want to even schedule for our next monthly meeting in April?
It would be helpful to know the initial target audience, because if it were supporting existing businesses, I'd want to see what the survey says. If it's supporting new businesses to the area, I think we could move forward with kind of basic known knowns and then informed. When do you anticipate survey results?
I mean, that's a good point. We could look at survey results as it stands in April. And then maybe use that as our barometer for setting up kind of more of a working session in May.
Because that'll tell us maybe where to move our marketing message towards,
Yeah.
based on what we hear from businesses.
Cause I anticipate we'd get a decent response rate, you know, if we send it out the first, second week of March. And have 3 weeks or so to try to get our initial round of answers, and then kind of in between there, we can send out reminders and things like that. And then determine if we got, you know, the sample size we want, and if not, we can kind of do another round and try to catch any stragglers there, but I think that seems feasible.
And, Bill, do we have the information that Therese just mentioned about our inventory that we have for sale, you know, sale available? I feel like we pulled that together in like year one, but have lost track of.
I don't recall that you all did any like inventory of sites or properties, and the reason being that the city itself, I think when we began, the city did not even own the Glencoe Opportunity Area property. I think that was before we even bought it. And then since then, that's really kind of the only property the city has itself to market. Then it kind of boils down to visiting with some property owners, and one thing you can do, honestly, is is visit with some property owners who have vacant commercial, you've got, something on Highland Court that still hasn't been built, there's a property owner now, but what are the intentions? Do you need help marketing it? You have the corner property where the old Allstate was or whatever, that I know fast food has looked at a few times and doesn't happen, but would they like assistance marketing or what have you? There's the yellow building where the chiropractic company used to be. What's going on there? Would they like, all that? Like, you have opportunity to maybe coordinate with, how about the one that's didn't have the grading permit, and then Clean Water Services shut them down there, the property I'm talking about there. There's a property that has a downhill slope at the southeast corner of Glen. There's like properties around there are privately owned, and it's like, hey, property owner, we'd love to help you. Are you thinking about maybe trying to attract people to, that's where they visit with the broker that is representing that property that it's been graded, that didn't have the permit before. Can we help market? I think there are a bunch of different smaller private properties that might want to talk to you about, no, we haven't really just spent the time. You actually would help us with this or something along those lines. And then you could have an inventory of privately owned properties where the owner is interested in marketing, but they don't have the time or the interest. And all of a sudden somebody comes along and says, hey, we'll help you. That sort of thing. And then the same stuff applies. It's all mostly retail space or retail locations. So you're already pulling together the household demographics. You're already pulling together the spending, how much spending goes on and within a drive time and blah, blah, blah. And so the information you've pulled together applies to pretty much all those. And then you've got Far West that owns the 10 acres behind the ASML building there right on there on West Union. I know that they plan to do something with that. That's high-tech recycling related specifically, but they haven't ever come to us recently and said, okay, we're going to plan on doing something the next 18 months or whatever. So I think it's an opportunity also to kind of visit with the private property owners who haven't been active with their property, but with some prodding, they might.
Okay, good discussion. Thanks for all your work, keeping the ball moving.
Last minute.
It doesn't matter when it
I'll do
happens.
better next time. No, I wait you.
All right, downtown area subcommittee update. David, Lisa, and Chris make up that subcommittee. Do you guys have anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, I think since I'm here, I can do that. We did meet, Lisa, Chris, and I met, and we put down 3 bullet points as our goals for the next 6 months.
Okay.
So let me go through the bullet. I received this from Lisa. The first one is by the end of Q2, meet with the city manager to learn how we can help the city with the renewal process. This is in relation to the sunsetting of the URA by 2027. If there are some programs or projects or applications we can enter into, get some resources to support businesses within that place. So that is the first bullet point. And then the second item, after the business survey is administered, visit a place, like a site visit of 2 businesses with the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
After the survey has been administered. Then the third item, our third goal is in relation to the Downtown Association, which the nonprofit that was formed, I think some months back, right?
Yeah.
We want to actively start looking for leaders for the association.
Okay.
So the 2 sub goals was to meet with Rowan to find out the scope of that, of what the role will look like in running such an association, and also consider partners like the Knights or Abbey Creek.
Okay.
So we are going to flesh this one out in terms of like in SMART goal format and send to you later. But essentially, these are the 3 main goals we've put down for the next 6 months.
Great. Yeah, that was kind of my suggestion as well, and I know is pretty tied into all the work that's gone on with the Downtown Association and some of those efforts, so they'll probably be a great resource for that.
Yeah, I know Chris already has bylaws drafted for a downtown association. It's just a matter of populating the association with
People,
interested people. Yeah, I mean.
Got a lot done.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, the follow-up on that one, I would say 2 things. Number one, the Downtown Association, we're kind of at this funny spot where, statewide, there is, an Oregon Main Street program. Okay, it's run by the Oregon Parks Department, division or whatever, and then it's under their historical something or something, division within the Parks Department. And they get thousands and millions of dollars in state money for grants, and then they also channel or had been channeling federal grants on different things for downtowns. And we're at this peculiar place where we have a downtown plan, we have an economic development commission, and so we qualify to listen in on these meetings and hear about what's going on. But until we have a downtown association, people there with bylaws adopted, we can't take the next step of actively working through Oregon Main Street program to go for grants, to actually apply and get money to do things, from refurbishing buildings, facade improvement, to street furniture, to business assistant grants. I mean, there's a lot of money we're missing out on doing actual things. It isn't city money, it's state money or even federal money, because we don't have that downtown association formed that lets us enter the next step of involvement in Oregon Main Street.
the same way that the URA is city council, it's just a change of the hat.
Right.
Could hypothetically the EDC be the Downtown Association?
A representative member could be. It really kind of needs to mostly be vested interests in the downtown district.
Okay,
Because the entity is going to end up having fiduciary responsibility for funds for these projects, as well as needing to make decisions that prioritize the downtown district, as opposed to the broader goals and priorities of the Chamber of Commerce, for instance. So the Downtown Association might be doing things that not counter to the chamber, but not necessarily the same thing as the chamber, because these downtown businesses are the primary beneficiary of this, whereas that might be a little bit different from what the chamber does. So it kind of has its own charge, and so it needs to have downtown interests and property owners. Somebody from the library board or Robin or somebody could be on it as a library, in the middle of downtown district. It can be public agency participation too, a representative here could be on it, but it would need to have businesses.
Yeah.
Have we
Property
approached the bishops who have like, tried their hardest to open a business and then got caught off guard by extraordinary expenses and challenges?
They're a property owner. It can be active businesses, it can be businesses in downtown, or it can be property owners in downtown. It can be either one. I don't know that anybody's talked to them, but they can certainly be candidate.
Is the issue? So if that's the next step, is the issue that no one's interested, everyone's busy, or that we haven't actually approached people?
It looked like that thing didn't advertise, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody has like knocked door to door and said, we'd love to form a downtown association. Now, when we did the downtown plan a couple of years ago, during that process, we had an advisory committee that had businesses and others involved. We had, Lisa was the EDC rep to that, right? And part of the effort of that was to move into having interested members of that committee, which had downtown people on it, leveraging that process and involvement into a downtown association. But when the downtown plan process was done, people scattered. And the challenge we have with our downtown businesses, I will just say this, so think about this as you go to approach them. The businesses downtown, but greatly, are businesses that don't rely on walk-in traffic. If you think about it. I mean, even Pilgrim's Roasted Nuts, they have their storefront, people walk in, but really that business is about driving to festivals all over the place and selling online, and it's great. They do well, and I think they enjoy the business they run, but it's not like Cup-A-Yo downtown. It's not people who must market to and get people to walk in the door and spend money. We have a florist company that does weddings and funerals and graduations. But you don't typically, they're not even set up really for somebody to walk in and buy flowers, really. I mean, I like that the Robinsons are great, but it's just different business model. We had a catering company. They didn't sell food. Bertoni's open on the weekends, but during the weekdays.
It's a production.
Yeah. So, or in coffee roasters, they're not about retail walking in. So not everybody downtown, but we have a lot of businesses that aren't really customer facing businesses, and that's part of the thing. They don't have a vested interest the way a Cup-A-Yo or a restaurant would have to try to beautify and increase visibility and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a different business mix.
And hopefully,
When I was the first, the city council, I drove around to different cities. This is in Citrus and Condon, is what I drove to. If you drive that Condon, you see that the frontage, it goes along the highway, so it's kind of different from Main Street. Main Street here is kind of tucked away, it's hidden. You have to be a local to be able to get in there. Otherwise, you just go down to Glencoe to get some gas and whatever's over there. But what they do is they have all their buildings, frontages looking alike in like it's like a 50s or maybe, I don't know how to describe it. 50s kind of like frontage, like, that kind of thing. And I asked them, how do they do this? And they said they had no dumpster there. Most of it was just waste disposal. And they had a lot of grants from them. So they do to get people to kind of have like a feel of and like unified identities. I mean, just a bunch of like complete businesses, something that actually flows. What they would do is they had some grants from Oregon and also matching from the facility that did the waste services. And they would go in 50-50 with the businesses and say, hey, if you do the front like this, we'll actually match you 50-50 on this. Let's have it look like a certain thing. We thought about that over here, but the downtown we have, like Bill said, is not a lot of traffic. People drive by like, oh, let's pull up, it's cute. It's just, you have to be there, right? So I don't know if that's gonna take place or not. I have no idea how we do. We had a bunch of people we hired. And it is kind of fading away. So.
to help with kind of the design of all
Kind of the
that.
design, trying to make it more vibrant.
Yeah.
That's like something that somebody will stop by there at 11 o'clock and maybe 130, supposed to stop by there, you know, one of those things, they get away like a draw.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it would happen.
I think, for what it's worth, I think, I guess what I would say is, you know, I moved to Hillsborough in 2002. When I first started living there. I'm not there now, but I moved out just last year, almost exactly a year, come to think of it. But I lived from 2002 to 2024, I lived in Hillsborough. When I first moved there, downtown was nothing but vacant storefronts and antique shops. And what Hillsborough did a long time ago, it took a while, but what they wisely decided to do was, you know, Beaverton isn't the only city to have a farmer's market, so they, you know, they kind of put emphasis into farmer's market and then a Tuesday night market. And what they ended up doing was kind of, in a way, training people to go to, because downtown Hillsborough is kind of the same thing. I mean, you got government employment there and you've got an old downtown and everything, but it's not like a state highway. Like
Yeah.
it's off of the state
Yeah.
highway, like North Plains's Commercial Street is off of Highway 26. So what they decided a long time ago was, we're just gonna have to attract people. Downtown Hillsborough has to be an attraction, a destination. North Plains, I think, kind of has to think the same way about it downtown. You don't have state highway traffic. Like Sisters is wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's because it is just car to car traffic from people between Salem and Highway I-5 and Bend. We have to get people to come off of the highway the same way people have to be attracted in downtown Hillsborough. But they focus on festivals, events, Saturday market, Tuesday market, to get people trained to come downtown and do things. And then that happening regularly and people coming downtown got interest in the buildings themselves. And then a bunch of money spent by Hillsborough Urban Renewal and then their downtown association and downtown business district. It took a while, but that was successful.
And like money spent, when you say that, it's kind of similar to what Councilor Page said, where they'll have some type of program to like cost match or somehow lessen the burden of the actual business owner on making these updates.
Yeah, I mean, we have the downtown, we have the new food service and tenant improvement grant, which has been helpful. But, you know, there's what space is available downtown. You know, it's not like we have a bunch of vacant buildings where we would love to throw a grant at downtown. We would love to see new things downtown, but it's not the same as, you know, and the only reason we have things like Glencoe, we've been able to help new businesses get in with the urban renewal, new tenant improvement, new food service improvement, tenant improvement grant. It's because new space has been built. But if Dave Vanda hadn't come along, we wouldn't have been able to do anything with that. So.
Lisa, anything to add from your perspective?
You're asking me?
Lisa, sorry.
Oh, I thought you said Teresa. Sometimes people call me Teresa. That's why I answered. Sorry.
If you have something to add too, you're more than welcome.
No, I'm really listening. This is really good information. I'm taking it all in. Thank you.
No,
Okay.
I second everything Bill said and really good insights from Bill that even I didn't know about.
Out of curiosity, is there any vacant land that is for sale that someone like Dave Andy would scoop up and potentially build here in this general area?
I mean, just the corner of, what's the street on Glencoe? It's just south of Hillcrest. Yeah, Hillcrest and Glencoe, that property, there used to be a house on it. The house and junk was removed. The site was graded and it's sitting there vacant with a commercial realty advisors, big green sign on it. That's up for sale. Or lease. That's the only one that's, to my knowledge, is being actively marketed.
Can that be the only pot shop too? Or is
Oh, that building is well on Glencoe.
Yeah, that could be,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's one that's the insurance agent, she moved someplace else, right?
Mhm.
So she has that one. And also in that corner. I think for the zoning, Yeah, it's great. I think Tasmania, that could possibly be a pot shop. It's going to do something with that.
Yeah, it's general commercial. It can be retail commercial wise, that zoning allows just about everything. I mean, it's
Right.
pretty broad.
But there's nothing even here, sorry.
No, I don't want you to be thinking.
As it goes down, commercial,
No, the only property that sits vacant that I've talked to the property owner about, would you ever consider selling? Is the property that's owned by the Robinsons that's currently the community garden. It's just a flat vacant piece of property with gravel and a bunch of planter beds. That's owned by the Robinsons. The city has
I'm
an
not sure it's
extreme.
owned by one of their parents, not even by them.
I mean, okay, so it's owned by one of the Robinsons' parents, but it's just privately owned property. Robinson's floral is right next door. They just let the community garden be there for an extremely cheap annual lease renewal.
Yeah.
Just to have a community thing. And then Nikki gets to do her butterfly and hummingbird attracting plants and everybody else does vegetable. I mean, it's just kind of a nice thing, right? But that's kind of like the only property downtown that could even be kind of somewhat easily developed. Now, the city does own, the Urban Renewal Agency owns the kind of the red older house that's posted no trespassing, and then the yellow house right next to it, both right across from City Hall and the library. The yellow house is being vacated very, very soon. The Friends of the Library has kept old books in there that they sell for basically to take the money and donate to the library for operating expense. It's kind of their fundraising operation. But that house needs to be vacated because it's crumbling. There's no power and water to it at this point, and they're gonna move those books into the old city hall. Previous council decided with those properties, that was the preferred location for a new city hall instead of the south side. Where the new library and its old city hall is in the existing library hall building. But if council's thinking changed about that, that would make those two tax lots and those two buildings that would need to be demolished or whatever. That could be potentially for sales.
There's a house next to that between Nikki's, or the Robinsons and those places. There's another one house right there. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, so it would just be those two that we own right at this point. It would just be those two.
And there's one in the middle. And there's the Robinsons. There's one house.
Yeah, the white one, yeah. That owner might be interested in selling, but at this point, all that, and it would take the new council saying, no, we don't want to do the city hall on that side anymore. It would take them changing their mind or giving different direction on that. So that could be something, but then we gotta spend money on demolishing buildings and blah, 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 and that's where we are at the clinical opportunity area right now.
so really the Main Street business that we would like to create has to be with those existing business owners because there's no other
Yeah, you're,
option.
exactly, there isn't really anything that somebody, Rowan, no, there's nothing vacant that could just be done. I mean, the only other thing I will say,
Park next to the creek, I don't think anybody uses it. I think there's a picnic bench there.
yeah, over by,
I've never seen anybody picnicking.
yeah,
That's the high usage on it. But that's also water, it's gonna be kind of hard to develop that.
yeah, I guess the only other thing I would, the only other thing that comes to mind is behind, you have the fire station, and then right across the street is kind of that duplex where the hair salon used to be. It's a duplex now. Behind it is kind of a narrow strip. No, on the other side of the fire station, sorry, between the fire station and TriStar. 314, 315. There's kind of a narrow strip north-south.
That's what I see saying.
Yeah, across the street, but it's really narrow, like the downtown plan identified that a place for the farmer's market to be, because it's just kind of this easy place where booths can be set up super easy, parking's right there, super easy to get to. But in terms of being a development site, it's not, realistically, it's not different from the park that Councilor Page mentioned. It's odd shape and yada, yada, yada. So it's not ideal, but it's limited. We're really talking about existing buildings for the most part. for now.
What's the status of that? I think it was a home decor business that went, I believe, next, it was connected to the hair salon.
Yeah, what happened was, you're talking about, it was on this side.
Closer to the food carts.
So her son had a pretty bad accident and she had to go and monitor that full time. I think it was another our daughter, some child had a great brain, injury and she couldn't, surgery against that.
Okay. Anything else from the downtown team then? Good discussion there.
But we're not rich in opportunities. We have to kind of scratch at it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it takes some thought and.
More strategy than anything else really in
Yeah.
terms of how we can go about it.
We just have to build it up.
Yeah. We're thinking too
Well, there
far.
is the new owner, right, because of the owner.
Mm.
So wondering how involved they may or may not want to be.
Who is it? Do you know?
I don't know their names, but,
Interesting.
yeah, I don't know their names, but I do know that they don't live far. I think they live closer in town, not in town, but they live, I believe, in North Plains, from what I totally hearsay, but from what I was told, one is like retired law enforcement, one of the owners. Or in some sort of industry like that.
Yeah, when the guy was still, originally, when he was still alive. My dad went there and I said, hey, you wanna buy a business? And they're like, what do you think? I'm like, no, what? I don't, we do the math, but no.
All
I
right,
don't know, I was just thinking opportunity maybe with
Yeah.
the business owner, maybe he wanted to revitalize something because the road is old. I mean, that's great. Don't get me wrong, but new owners, fresh ideas, maybe a facelift.
Yeah.
Don't never know how involved they might want to be in that.
at the very least, a good relationship to start. Okay, last subcommittee update, the UGB relook subgroup. Technically, only one member in this subcommittee, however, we had 3 members of the EDC on the RAC, so. We could technically, any of us could give this update, but we had our work session Monday night with city council and the planning commission. It was, I would say it was more of a report out than a work session in terms of, city council and the planning commission were kind of briefed on what the RAC, the relook advisory committee, had been working through the past 6 months. Went over kind of the recommendation that the RAC was giving the planning commission. We had some testimony from various members of the RAC. It was a bit anticlimactic in terms of, there was a couple questions that went back and forth that got answered, and then the mayor kind of said, I look forward to continuing this discussion and gathering more information, and that was it. So that's kind of where it left off, was a bit of an open-ended ending, so to say. So anything to add, Bill?
Sort of like the ending of The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I guess so.
What's next, right? I mean, well, I don't know, I always found the ending of that movie like, well, they're just leaving the hospital, they're in the hospital, they're saying bye, like, where's the story going?
Ewoks.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I would say that's correct. I think the only other thing I would say is, there is going to be some kind of work session. We kind of had to bump it because of some more emergent issues, but it sounds like on the topic of urban growth boundary expansion, maybe in May, well, maybe at the next meeting or a meeting soon, council will agree to set a date, probably in May if it happens, of another work session, but to kind of go over some of the supporting documents that went into informing the original urban growth boundary expansion and continue to inform, because they're adopted documents. The housing needs analysis that we have in the EO and the economic opportunities analysis that we have, and both of those enumerate the housing land and the employment land that the city should plan for or should choose to plan for moving forward. So the only other thing is that at that meeting, and it really gets into the weeds, but the state has a new housing needs law of the land, and the city's housing needs and land need are under the old system. And so it's like, well, there's questions of, well, hey, wait a minute, if we grow according to what we have, what does that mean if we were to get rid of that and plan for housing under the new system? And the state needs to answer some complicated questions. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah,
Does council seem open to relooking at urban growth guidance?
You know,
Not to open a can of worms.
yeah, I mean, I'm not, I don't want to speak for Counselor Page. From my perspective, what I will say is that we had different counselors, particularly new ones, attend different workshops of the as newly sworn in and immediately prior to being newly sworn in city councilors. And I think that was a positive thing in that they got to see that the process was genuinely trying to, clear the slate. Let's truly relook at this. Let's not just try to figure out, landing at something. I think there was fear that the process was trying to lead to something like the original expansion. And I think that they got to see that 3J ran input workshops that really were meant to fresh perspective sort of thing. And I think that got the juices flowing with some members of council. Now, what they end up doing, I don't know, but I think they saw that it was a good process, and so we'll see where it goes.
This body here, the economic development, you always have to wonder, what comes first, the business or the customers? Well, that's kind of easy. You have to supply a need, right? So it has to be customers first. So we need to have more people around businesses to do better. If you have a smaller pool of customers, good luck, right? Because people have tastes. Like, well, maybe today I don't want this, I want something else. Now so the more people you have, 10% wants to have change for that day. Well, good. If you have a smaller population, 2%, oh no, So I'm assuming this group, just by its strength of its economic development, they want more people here, more businesses. As the person that from city council trying to run the city or trying to figure out how to run the city, I think more businesses is appropriate. But how do you get more businesses, right? So you have to have a population of workers and a population of customers, and then make a business to be, either manufacturing at the workers here. Or we're gonna have a service business that have more customers. So I'm assuming this body right here is for growth, right? That being said, what generally happens in city council across the nation, across the land, forever and ever, people are generally do all this work because they have an action right. They have a specific agenda they want to get serviced, right? And that's where they went. And this one's clearly on a specific, that's the rallying flag. That being said, people are not always dogmatic. So maybe there's, once the process is understood, maybe that'll be the process. However, promises were also made. So we'll see how this goes. Don't know. You have a majority that ran on a platform. So we'll see how that works out. People are not always automatic. Sometimes people just don't know, right? And they can change. Or maybe when they look at something, they'll get even more certain. Who knows, right? That process is still in the air. You don't have a clear directive. However, that being said, I can speak for myself. And I do know that in order for a city like this to survive, we need to have businesses. In order to have businesses, which comes first, business over people, right? Can't have to service a need that businesses do, right? So that's not getting that.
I heard you ask the questioner express concern that there are shovel-ready developers and that would happen fast, and I
Yes.
haven't heard that. Can you share what you know?
I don't really know much as far as contracts go. I do know that people there that are on the east side, their farmlands mostly just underwater stuff, and they're not going like, we're going to Feed America. They're not, they're going grassy at best, and then they rotate it out once else and they grow grassy again, right?
Yeah, there's no
It's-
one in North Plains that grows any food in America.
Yeah. It's really hard for them to survive. Now, they can sell the land. But how much is land worth selling grassy area every year? Versus the housing development? Or some kind of development, right? Those guys are really motivated to sell and they wanna get out and they wanna get out with the right things. So they enter what's called an agreement with these people that buy this land. Will buy the land not for the price of development, because it's not that. But they'll give them a little bit better than pharmacy, but they have rights to your land. It's kind of like when you sell options in the stock market, right? So I don't know how their contracts are set up, but they have people already option to buy that. And that's represented by the one guy who was coming here and, hey, guys, good job, I'm smiling, right? That guy is the guy that represents those landowners that have things ready
And they have land under contract for development.
for whatever happens. Yeah, they're gonna buy the land from them, and probably at a fixed set pay rate, right? They probably got something up front for that. I don't know, but I'm assuming they probably got the down payment for it, right? So my worry, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I've seen it happen as soon as Brent Hill got taken in by the city started. It was a
No one
20
can
it was a 20-year.
absolutely tell you that went you for years and years and years.
It was a 20-year project because they weren't in part of the city. As soon as that happened, boom.
That's not true.
It's not? Okay,
No, that's not true.
yeah, because as soon as, when I was on the planning commission, as soon as that thing happened, as soon as they put in there for, how was it, 16, Senate Bill 1684?
Yeah, I'm happy separately from this to share the
Yeah.
truth about
If,
that.
if you got, if you know more, but as soon as that happened.
I'm happy to help you.
They committed to the city and made us quick.
Are we talking UGB expansion versus annexation? Are we both
Right,
talking
right, right.
annexation?
What happened was as soon as from my understanding, I don't know right, but from my understanding is that if the city is in the UGB expansion, they can apply to become part of the city, right?
After 2016,
Yeah, after 2016, that's when I said it's quick, right? Relatively quick, versus a long time wait. They can apply to become part of the city and then it's game on, right?
yeah, my understanding is the UGB expansion that enabled the Bryn Hill land to come in was like in 2002, and then, but
And they weren't.
the annexations were voter approved
Right. And that's
until,
been such a long process.
And-
And
yeah.
2016 happened, and they just had to fill out a form and pay the fee. And then they got it next.
How about we trace the years? I'll work on that. I'll trace the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
years so that
Things
it's,
like that.
there was a death, many contracts, many developers, many years of planning before anything ever happened. So
Yeah, I think the UGB Senate Bill 1684, one of those.
so like, yeah, it was in 2016 though, for sure.
Yeah, and then the 2016 Senate Bill allowed all this to happen immediately.
I'm happy to provide that.
Yeah. Now, before then, there wasn't a vote, and they're always short of the votes, from what I understand, just barely, but they're always short of the votes to get annexed into the city. But when they get the voting part of that, to get out there, that's when nitrogen green and red started.
And time's probably relative, so putting numbers, what is short to someone and long to others, I can't say that,
Yeah.
but
I think 2016 is when it all started coming out.
Okay. So we do have about 3 other items here. I think we'll ultimately discuss a couple of them next month in April. So first being the Quarter 1 update to City Council, we wanted to kind of talk through outlining that update that we put together Q4 of last year. I think once we get the survey under our belt and have some of those discussions, I think that's when we can start crafting the update for city council. In the April meeting, does that seem reasonable? There's not much to report on so far. We've had 2 meetings and I'd like to move the needle a little more. Explore incentive examples being offered by other cities. We touched on that a little bit, but I think that is something we can also kind of bundle into the item C under new business. So schedule a work session with Therese, who's on the line. So I think what we were just discussing earlier was a May work session with Therese, and then at that point, we would have some information back from the survey, a clear path in terms of like marketing material and what we would want to approach. And we'd be able to maybe do some research on different incentives that, other cities of similar size and stature have implemented to try to attract businesses too. How's that sound? Okay. Any other go backs on the items we discussed today? So the survey, the subcommittee updates, relook committee for UGB, any of those items? Lisa, anything you want to revisit on the line?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay. Bill and Lori, anything from that side of the fence?
Nothing high priority now, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Councilor Page, thank you for being here. Any parting words of wisdom?
When I was, no, I have no wisdom. When I was at city council, they did a lot of talking about trying to have some directives for you guys. They want to take it upon themselves, but it wasn't appropriate. We're trying to figure out some incentives for kids working in North Plains. A lot of people have working age kids, or they're just starting off, and there's not a lot of jobs out here. So I talked to Amy about this a little bit. What is there any kind of sense we could have to have local businesses hire teenagers besides teachers being cheap?
Incentives like,
Actually,
I don't know.
do you mind if I want to apologize. No, I completely spaced. So council was interested in you all taking up the question of this right here, like what can the city do to encourage that?
okay,
I've done some background research on what cities do or don't do, just objectively, these cities do or don't do this, these chambers do or don't do this. I actually visited with Chris Barron about this topic and lead up to before Monday. But I think there's an expressed interest in more teens being employed at businesses in North Plains. So I think council would like to.
can I ask why is that I'm sorry,
Somebody put it on Facebook and you're gonna say it was very
Okay.
specific.
time out. Well, what is there a population of teenagers that would love to work and we don't have jobs for them? Or is there some type of initiative to get kids working that they don't agree with?
So let me give you the background. What happened was the new council was trying to figure out ways that public to get public engaged. One of them is looking at Facebook, I guess. And it's like with some on Facebook, they take it as like an actionable item,
Yeah.
which I don't agree with. However, I think that Facebook should be a backdoor way to get city council to move or do any action. But there's some discussion back and forth about this. But it does have, maybe this has merit. Can we explore whether it has merit or not? There's a lot of people that have teenage kids, myself one of them. And is there any kind of, the kids to work can probably have to go further away without the city, but they have to probably go drive, the drive to get businesses around here is about 15 minutes or thereabouts. Even so they can have, like half an hour. But the jobs that teachers normally do are low experience.
low decision making, it's not,
Zucchini.
it's a teacher job, right? It's pretty much like a social job, right? Work it for 3 months, get some experience and move on again. So the thought process was, boy, somebody posted on Facebook, boy, my kid really has to, would love to have a chance to work over here, there's no real jobs.
But then we need to grow.
So, is there any kind of incentive you have? Not that this year get directed to find one, just spitball it, right? Is there something we can do for local businesses that incentivize them to hire a teenager? Now, hiring a teenager has certain, they don't really need a job, they already have the shelter, so they can quit any moment. There's also rules of how much you can work, right? So there's a lot of rules for that. Is there something that we do to make it more incentivizing?
Yeah.
Or incentive,
That's kind of,
incentive to have a kid besides the low cost and having something at disposal, right?
that's kind of where I was trying to drive at with my question. There's some need I'm unaware of a need for teenage labor. Some,
Well, there's
I
not
don't
gangs
understand.
or teenagers roam the streets and you get them for it. But is there a second thing that we have it
Yeah.
easier and more of the people, population here?
Right,
Could have kids work. But
yeah,
I don't know if there's really a need for that. We have a pretty, our community is not really struggling as far as fashion goes. We're in a pretty good shape. But it makes it more convenient for kids to not have to go as far.
So here's what I propose. Let me provide a suggestion to you all. And it's up to you to, how next agenda. What I propose is to bring to you next month, kind of a formal table or something in table format. Examples of how other, examples of teen promotion programs, teen employment promotion programs.
Mhm.
And I can kind of bring to you who does them and examples of them. What do chambers do? What do cities do? Versus chambers versus a nonprofit of a particular type. I can bring you just kind of information about who takes up that type of an effort, a program. And then when cities do get involved as a city, what do cities tend to do versus some of these other ones? I can bring that back to you. And if you all would like to talk about it and decide on, my recommendation to you would be to discuss it. Send me off to do more research if you like. I don't have to. In order to inform perhaps a recommendation to council back to them to say, we looked at the issue. And here's what we recommend to you. There's something along those lines.
The recommendations could be like, nothing really appropriate for the city, we already have businesses that can hire, that are not family and mom and pop shops that are running by themselves. Ones that do have appropriate for, probably already there, right?
I'm sorry not to beat a dead horse. Is the question or the issue, there are vacant jobs that we would love to incentivize teenage workers to fill those vacancies and work in town? Or is the issue, we have teenagers, however, there are no job vacancies, so they're having to travel to Hillsgrove, for example, or Forest Grove to work?
It's probably the latter. We have more population of teenagers than jobs available in town.
Okay, so we need to.
And I would
We
say,
actually probably have no data to support either position.
there's no data.
Right.
So-
This is just
You could
Facebook
solve the
comments.
problem and never know.
This is
Or
just
you could-
Facebook comments directing policy discussion. I don't mean to sound dismissive, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
But having said that, council officially asked me to be the ambassador of this request.
You can officially ask that we're looking for a little clarification on
Okay.
how, what exactly we as a body can help them with.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's fine.
There's a bigger issue that I want to discuss, and we'll be discussing that pretty much ourselves. Is Facebook a backdoor way to get, but that's for us to discuss amongst ourselves and really.
We
down.
take the initiative of issuing surveys, gathering data, because we make critical decisions made based on data. And we try to lead in that way. I would appreciate if we get direction from city council in the same fashion in terms of data-backed questions and initiatives to look at instead of one-off qualitative statements made on social media.
Exactly. So that was, that's my ask to ask you guys.
Okay.
So.
I'm not trying to shoot the messenger by any means. I'm just saying, I know this body appreciates it.
And the, quick question, the Facebook comment, the user, was it verified? Is it somebody with capacity, a resident of?
We have to address
Yeah,
how
because,
how we take our issues up. So, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the Facebook post, you know,
Yeah,
I think before it should be taken out, we should verify this some person, a resident with enough levels capacity to make such a complaint.
Yeah, yeah.
Our
I think,
IT people should be able to do that.
but
It shouldn't be a generic
yeah, it should,
Facebook post like somebody in Texas,
right,
log into our Facebook.
right, and I don't go down that kind of words, because that's a discussion we have yet. But what's going on here, right?
So we can, we'll add it for the April, like an item for April to, further discussion if you go back and, they want to look.
Or is, yeah, I think the question for that's gonna be, is there any kind of incentives for that? Not that we need it, but
Yeah,
would there be something? that
okay,
we can do?
Yeah.
Right?
Plus luckily Amy probably has experience.
Yeah.
with Teenagers.
I talked to Amy about that.
All of those things. What am I going to do here?
15-minute TikTok break, your shit.
Is that what the kids are doing?
Hey, I would love to have an employee that was super gung ho about doing a TikTok video in there. I tell you what, take stuff off my plate. I don't even know how to do TikTok. I tried, but it's a disaster. We love hiring North Plains kids. We do. It's close to home. It's all what we all hope that our kids would have, a place close to home, but
Do you have a shortage of teenagers wanting to work there, or do you have to kind of?
we actually have an ad out right now. We probably have had 20 applications. And it's only been open for a day and a half. Like, we get a ton,
Probably a
but,
super popular place to work.
well, yeah, it's great until they say, but I can't work
Yeah.
6 of these days.
That's a little inside baseball.
So, anyway.
So, yeah, we'll, for now, we can plan on discussing it, in April. A little further. So for April, we'll have that item. We'll review some survey results. Hopefully knock on wood. Set up a work session with Therese for May. And then, discuss our city council quarterly update. That sound good?
conversely, you can have Teresa in April and take up the teen employment thing in May because you won't get clarification on the issue for a little bit.
Will they, they won't meet on it. We won't get any feedback from now until,
No, but you're setting the agenda. You can do what you want.
sorry, are you saying, but by April, we wouldn't have feedback from council?
During the city manager report on the next meeting on the 17th of this month, I can mention. We initially visited about this with the EDC and they had questions.
And I could clarify it not so particularly correctly, I could just say things, so.
So we can, so during the city manager report.
Those are
and
little box.
Counselor, and Counselor Page can do all the color play he wants. Yeah, right? Then that's them hearing it. And then they'll think about it and talk about it. And so I guess what I mean to say is. Yes, I'll get clarification, but I wouldn't set your agenda.
based on that.
dictated by that.
Okay,
Marketing the city and business opportunity has long been a topic of effort for this body, and there's Therese.
And we don't want you guys to get too knee-jerky stuff either.
yeah,
So
and yeah, we appreciate
I had an
that.
AR to bring it up, I did, but I also covered it, so you guys understand, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Gotcha. I still think May will work best if Teresa's available for the May session. So that we can have the initial survey results and kind of get a bit of feedback in April.
Okay.
Teresa, the May, are you around? Are you on vacation? Anything prohibiting the May?
Unless I win the lottery and can take off to, parts unknown, I'm available.
Okay. We'll
Okay.
plan on that for now, and we'll kind of hammer out some of the details. It's still a couple months out, so.
One of those.
Yes.
And again, I don't mean to take up too much time, but, you remember Lisa Butler is on the budget committee. The budget committee process may begin late April and will really be, I'm still working on the final schedule for this, but late April to May will be budget committee, which is city council, and then members at large. Lisa's one of those members at large.
That was Chris.
And Chris, actually, he's still with, isn't he? Okay, so you have two members here on budget committee. So anyway, I guess what I would say is that in April, and I can work with a subcommittee before then if you like, but I think some conversation, maybe a subcommittee before and then winding up in April, it would be good to kind of hear your thoughts about, budget, kind of just budget principles or budget opportunities for ECDEV, for this committee, that sort of thing.
Okay. That sounds good.
Mhm.
Do you have anyone in, like those two maybe, meeting with the budget committee members ahead of the April session, or is there a different, you mentioned like a subcommittee, is that?
Well, what I mean to say is that between now and April, I'd be happy to meet with a subcommittee of you
Mhm.
to kind of go, just to kind of give some background on what the ECDEV, what the budget has been, what budget items or issues have been pertinent to the EDC.
Gotcha.
And then to be thinking about that, to be able to come to you all in April or what have you. So I guess I'm willing to work with one of your subcommittees on preparing you for
The session.
April, your April meeting to talk budget
Okay,
stuff.
gotcha. Okay, that would be great. Thank you, Bill.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lori, as always. Thank you, Counselor Page, for being here. Anything else before we wrap up?
No.
All right, meeting adjourned 7:33 PM. Get home safe, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, bye all.
Bye.